Everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're back again with Breaking into InfoSec, and this time we're covering a very, very important topic which you all have been asking about consulting. And today we have Jaspreet Singh with us. He's going to tell us about consulting, and he's wonderful. He's been in the consulting industry for a very, very long time, and he's currently working as a partner at one of the consulting firms. So, thank you so much for joining me,
Hi everybody. Hi Vandana.
Hello, we are very glad to have you. I've introduced you, but if you can share some more details about yourself.
So thanks. Like you rightly said, I've practically spent almost 19 years now in consulting. I don't know if I wouldn't have been in consulting, what else skills I would bring to the job. The joy of getting up early in the morning, not knowing where you will end your day, probably gives the biggest thrill from a consulting perspective. As you grow up the ladder, you don't work with the same uh, client office daily. So you get to move around clients, get to move around industries, get to meet new people almost every day. I think it's probably one of the boons of working in a consulting firm. Just being plain lucky, being there at the right place, right time, and obviously, Vandana, who better than you could understand this, that uh, uh, the place to be, the time to be in cyber is now, and the place to be in cyber is now, right? And I'm extremely privileged today that you called me on such a exciting YouTube channel to come and have a fireside chat. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of it. We are really, really glad to have you, and we're looking forward to learn from you about all the consulting aspects. So let's start with your journey first. How did you started off in consulting?
Joined a so 2003 joined a consulting firm fresh out of MBA college with no idea of how consulting works. Was given a laptop, given a flight ticket to Ahmedabad, uh, business class. Fresh out of MBA, you thought 3 4 years, may I'll be the next CEO. Went with a couple of team members or my seniors to a client place, and uh, they said we have to do cyber. It was called IT audit then. We have to do IT audit. I had no clue. I'm an MBA student, networking majors. No clue on what an IT audit did, right? And then I asked my senior, "Oh, I think you'll be there with me, right?" And I had no idea of consulting also. So he said, "Yeah, I'll be there with you for 2 days, and then you have to stay there for 3 weeks." And I had no idea what I have to do with 3 weeks. And we reach the client location. Uh, we meet the plant SAP head, and in his introduction, he said, "I have 26 years of experience running SAP, running various ERPs, and now SAP." And I thought to myself that I'm 24 years old. I don't even know what will I do that. From there to probably leading one of the largest consulting firms, cyber practices. I think God's really been very kind.
Very wonderful. Now, if let's say I have to join consulting, what are the things that I need to remember from your experiences so that I can join consulting as a fresher, totally fresher, I'm asking, or even for that matter, if someone is changing their careers to consulting in security itself?
Right. I think the fundamental difference between people working in industry and people who join consulting is the exposure of various industries, right? It's not only that you understand security, but you need to understand business. Why you need to understand business is because you are protecting crown jewels of an organization, right? The most important aspects of an organization. If you don't understand the business, you don't know what to protect, right? So anybody who wants to start their career in security consulting, even if they have very little security background, if they have a great understanding of business, they'll make great consultants. And second, I think, uh, as everybody says, start with the fundamentals. If your fundamentals around security, privacy, business continuity are good, I think sky's the limit, as they say.
Right, absolutely agree with you. Are there any certifications that you feel people should do to be part of the consulting industry? Because it's a very, very wide industry. And you say that every morning there is a new challenge that you have to take care of. In the night, there's something that might come up. So how do you generally carry that? Do you need any professional education to a certification, anything that you need?
So let me flip this question back to you, Vandana. Uh, when Vandana goes and talks to a client, right, or Vandana goes and advises companies on security, does Vandana need a certification? Answer is no, right? It is the knowledge. Uh, uh, I've spent almost 18 years working with world's top companies from a cyber perspective, right? I tell my clients that the fact that I'm from this company and I've been working here for so many years, I don't need a certification. I just think certification, especially in our country, is taken in a very wrong sense, right? It's the knowledge that matters. Uh, Even if I have to get up in the morning, meet a new client, I would read about that client. I would read about certain aspects of security. It's not that today cloud is there, so I'll do cloud security. Tomorrow AI/ML will come. I'll do AI/ML certification courses. Then I'll do another certification course. Then you are entering into a never-ending rat race, right? And I'm sure you would know a lot of these certification programs also, to keep their bank registers ringing, have a well-defined policy of earning credits, next year renewal, next to next year renewal. Uh, and are they actually enhancing your knowledge? That's the question everybody should ask themselves. So like you said, it's a huge field. Pick up one area. uh, Become, I don't think so the era of journalists is over, right? It's like you don't go to a MBBS doctor anymore, right? You look for MD or even DM. Similarly, security is a very big field. I would suggest anybody who wants to start, probably choose one area of expertise, go deep in it. uh, Understand, read a lot. Nothing better than uh, our web to read about everything. There are books, everything is freely available. Then, in case somebody is interested in getting a professional accreditation done, certification could be done. Unfortunately, I also get queries on my LinkedIn saying, do you want this certification? Rather than somebody propagating about knowledge, it's more about getting that piece of paper. So, if you see organizations like ours, from an entry barrier perspective, we don't ask for any certification. I'll be amazed if somebody with 6 months to 1 year experience says I'm CISA certified, right? Because the kind of questions that they ask in the exam is more around practical knowledge.
Right. I agree with you that practical knowledge is more important than the theoretical certification knowledge. It's only good to have if you're learning something from that certification.
Absolutely. As I said, it's a byproduct, right? You've done the entire preparation. You understand the concepts. Then, if you just want to go and test it, please go ahead and apply for the certification rather than other way around, saying I'll get a certification and hence I'll get a job. It will definitely give you an advantage, but nobody is today giving you a job basis a certificate, right? You still have to pass those 3 4 5 levels of interviews.
Right. And how does the career progression looks like in consulting? Like, is it predefined consultant, CDM consultant, manager? How is it here?
So every organization has a obviously a path, right? But it is totally dependent upon individual. There are 3 4 different paths people take, right? Somebody could be a journalist, more getting as they grow in their career, could look at more of a marketing, sales kind of role in cybersecurity also. And very few people understand this, that there are roles available there. Or you could become somebody like a principal architect, where you're only responsible for the IDAM solution and you lead the IDAM solution for an organization in consulting and help every client who wants to get into IDAM, who wants to implement everything, right? So the beauty piece is, if I were to look at a triangle, the consulting firms work across the triangle. At the top of the triangle is the strategy engagements, where we help define clients their cyber strategy. And it's become more interesting because cyber's got a seat at the table, right, at the boardroom, right? So you're actually sitting understanding business strategy, and that's where the link to organization, understanding what the organization does, to coming down to the last level of managed services and understanding how do organizations actually run their cyber operations. So you get a wide range to play from, which normally in an industry you wouldn't get. You would probably be very typecast into a role. Whereas in consulting, to switch careers, even within consulting, is quite possible. And I've seen lots and lots of people do that.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And do you think there are any books, podcast, or anything that can help people learn more about this kind of an area, which is very niche because there's something new every day in consulting?
Yeah. So there are obviously the top four, top five strategy firms have super amazing podcasts. But again, it's about putting that knowledge to use rather than listening to that podcasts, looking at books. One of my favorite books, which I grew up reading, was The McKinsey Way. It's a bible on how consulting firms work, right? But today I might be talking to you on from a cyber career perspective. Tomorrow a client would call me, and a CEO of a client would call me and say, Jaspreet, you've done our vulnerability assessment, please explain. Now please tell me, how do you explain a security architecture to him, or you explain a very basic SQL injection attack to him? He wouldn't understand, and neither should he, because on the other hand, you are not expected to understand, from a financial services company example, on credit, debits, and the entire ledger system, right? But you need to be smart enough to explain it to him from a business perspective. So there are a lot of podcasts. Now, for example, uh, the one of my favorite postcards from a security perspective is understanding security for business practitioners. I really like listening to them. They uh, again, they have an entire 45 minutes episode on IDAM, for example. And for the first 15 minutes, anybody who's not even ever seen an IDAM screen would know what IDAM is. Then there is this podcast around the entire business resilience piece, which talks about pre-COVID, where people thought, offices would be always available, enterprise security would be always available, to now where every employee sitting working from home is actually an office, right? How do you look at business continuity? How do you look at resilience from that aspect? uh, the third one that probably I listen to is Business at the Speed of Thought. It's a book by Bill Gates. It's also a podcast. In that podcast, it talks about things like, I have to launch an app tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Would you get security? Would you get it security tested, remediate it completely, and then launch, or would you launch a beta version? So they throw up very exciting challenges and they try and solve it. And I'm sure today every business, every fintech you talk to, every e-commerce organization that you talk to is grappling by this.
Right, I agree. Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing the wonderful insights, Jaspreet. Anything that you feel that I should be sharing or I missed out here?
I think we've covered it all. I think go back to the basics. What I would encourage people listening to this is go back to the basics. Please try and understand business. I think uh, you'll find, uh, sorry to say, tons and tons of security professionals out there who are super good from a tech skills perspective, but probably cannot explain it to the business on the merits or demerits of undertaking any security assessments. But that is where the entire delta or the difference lies in going and creating values for businesses, going and creating values for clients is concerned. I think it's like marriage of business consulting and cyber consulting is where the meat lies. It's otherwise very, very exciting field. I'm sure you would appreciate. Every single day there's new things coming in, new ransomware attacks coming in. There's so much to read, so much to learn, and I think next 8-10 years, the way ITS industry led India to the top of global hub. This is the industry that I think would probably take India to the next century.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jaspreet, for sharing the wonderful insight. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Vandana. Pleasure, as I said, is always mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.